Yeah. So hopefully it's all going to be good now. So you've been in Manchester for quite a while now. Like you said, you moved to Manchester. Is it mainly for the poetry that you've gone there? Like I said, because they always say you can never really be famous in the north. You've always got to go down south or to Manchester or Liverpool, if anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether or not fame's the end goal. That's something I'm still trying to figure out. Because if fame was the end goal, I'd probably be a lot more egotistical than I think I have to be now. But there was a lot of that. Yeah, there's a lot of personal stuff which I won't go into just now. But there was also that because I decided that Manchester had a load of poetry nights and this, that, and the other, and performance nights that I knew of, and I knew people who lived here, and they were always telling me about nights to do and this, that, and the other. And living in Blackpool, I wasn't able to constantly keep coming down, and the opportunity did come up to move. So I was just like, well, yeah, I've always wanted to pursue this career. I got told by someone very close to me at the time when I started doing all the art stuff and the performing stuff on my own, that for me, wanting to be an artist and this, that, and the other would be, to quote them, to take the piss out of real artists who are trying really hard and have the ability to, basically. And I found that really hard to take because they were very, very close to me at the time. So the opportunity came to prove myself and go, right, well, I'll go and do it then. And that's another reason why I moved. And yeah, there is a lot more nights here than there are in Blackpool. Now, that's not to say that there aren't nights in Blackpool. There definitely is. You saw me in January when I came back. There's like Dead Good Poet Society. There's also Pub Poets. There was the night that I did, the open mic night at Dirty Blondes. There's loads of nights, really, when you think about it. A lot, you just have to find them. A lot of the time it's not always massively
It's not
shared.
accessible, or it's not like mainstream for Blackpool. I mean, if you had the choice, would like, let's go out for a pub poet night or free shots at Walkabout.
Well, yes and no. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I did get that, but I think that, in my opinion, is a slight disservice to Blackpool, really.
Yeah.
I think Blackpool's built on a backbone of culture. Yeah. And it always has been. That's why we got the comedy carpets, why the Winter Gardens was regarded in such high esteem. It's why the Winter Gardens is held, and they've just got funding. Thank God for that. I'm so glad they got some funding with what's going on. And I think a lot of this drink culture and this, that, and the other that we see about Blackpool it's there, but it's often only there to support the economy that's been crippled by cuts. It's actually a lot more tragic than you think about it. But there's such a good level of the arts and stuff in Blackpool. I think a lot of companies like, say, Left Coast, they're doing it, Aberdeen Studios, the Art B&B. There's two, I'm not sure each one, but there's two Art B&Bs. And then there's like, what was it? There's like the Hive Arts Group. They're another, like arts group as well. The Rock Factory. You've got independent artists as well. There's a huge network, but I didn't know that myself until I started doing it and I started talking to them, and then everything started to click. And I think there is that, but the appetite of, say, going to see a poetry night with your mates, or going out and getting wasted watching football, there is a thing about that, and I find that very sad, really, because as someone who is in the arts and has been using the arts for years, and it's my life, it's what I love, and I've always loved doing it, there's this massive disconnect within the arts of, and I've mentioned this a few times, and it's something I feel very, very strongly about, is that the arts has a class problem and an image problem, very badly. I'm not sure how much you would agree with me, because I know we've been in plays together when we were growing up. And certainly, I think the Beggars Opera we were definitely in college. But the arts often feels like it's not for everyday people, and it's because, looking back in the past, you always see stuff like, oh, it's for the gentry, it's for this, that, and the other. Poetry's not for me. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why would people write about this, that, and the other? When actually, there's a load of it that is. And I think we do a disservice by looking at it and going, oh no, this, that, and the other, theatre's not for me. It's something for middle class and upper class people. And to a large extent, it kind of is, because it's often priced that way. And I think what needs to happen is the arts need to be made more accessible. So say the sports and stuff, it's accessible. Anyone can watch it in a degree. You can go to a pub and watch it, but when it comes to the arts, it feels like there's this barrier between you and it. And I find that something that I'm trying really hard to fight against and push back with a lot of my work. So like when I did that thing, it was poetry, but I tried making it a bit funnier and a bit more accessible when I did it. I'm sure we might talk about that later. And I've probably just taken 5 minutes when a simple yes or no question could have done, but sorry about that.
I know exactly what you mean though. It's because I'm part of an Am society in Blackpool anyway, so we do shows in Blackpool. But again, it's like 25, 30 quid a ticket for the Grand Theatre, isn't it? And that's amateur or professional. It's the same price regardless. We're treated as a professional company because we're putting on professional shows as an amateur company. So they're paying those prices. So who would want to go and pay that price when, like you said, you can just go and watch something on TV for free, or you can go into the pubs and get drunk and watch football. So there's not really that accessible thing.
Yeah, and it's a shame because in many ways, because I'm a freelance artist as well, in many ways you do have to price accordingly because you've got to make your money back, and you have to invest a lot of money too. Yeah. And it's like a problem that I'm not sure how to fix it, and I'm working and bashing my head against the wall all the time trying to fix it. In my view, anyway, I can't speak for everyone, but like, 30 quid for a ticket, it is a lot, but it might not be when you do the costings, and that again is a shame because a lot of the time the arts needs subsidization. It needs, money given to it. A lot of the time you see a lot of arts like companies are charities because they're non-profit, because they're just doing it for the love of art and just putting it out there. And I think those things are also important too, because people aren't going to be interested in the arts if they're not exposed to it. Yeah. And again, this gating off, people aren't exposed to it, but there's a lot of companies now that are working towards putting arts into communities and bringing arts to communities. And I think a lot of the time we back away from it because, again, we think it's not for us, it's too much. It's either art. When you think of art, it's either high art or it's Mrs. Brown's Boys. We often forget there is an in-between, do you know what I mean? And each one's valid, and each one, if you like each one, fine, that's good for you, I'm not bothered. But it's like binary, and it isn't. It's so much fluid than that, but it's presented to us as binary things. And it's often seen as a sort of like a judgmental thing on a person. So, you like that? You don't like art? And it's like, well, actually, there's a lot more behind it. And I think we just need to communicate that better. It's like science. It needs communicating better and not gatekeeping.
Yeah, as long as I don't know, I'm going to say it anyway, like, I despise Mrs. Brown Boys. It's
I
like,
do too.
It got voted the greatest British comedy of all time, didn't it? By like Channel 4. It was like, well, IT Crowd is, but okay. I know you're probably going to disagree and say like Bottom or the Young Ones and stuff.
The Young Ones, Bottom, stuff's my sort.
Like IT Crowd for me is like one of the greatest comedies ever made. So, but again, they still, like I said, they still like art and they're still doing it. Not everybody's going to like the exact same thing, are they? And that's what makes civilization work, doesn't it? Like, if everybody just liked the same thing, you're just going to be bombarded with MCU all the day, aren't you? So
all the time, yeah. But it's subjective, and thank Christ it is, because if it wasn't, I probably wouldn't be getting anywhere at all. Yeah. But like, again, the other thing is, which I think is really important, is comedy. We've just mentioned it. Comedy is often looked down upon as not art or an art form. It's entirely an art form. It always has been and always will be. We need comedy. We need satire. We need these things. But often when you try and do comedy, and I know plenty of stand-ups, I've tried it myself and all this sort of stuff. It's an art form. And a lot of the time people just think, you're just being daft and silly. And you're like, well, actually, no. To make a joke, a good joke, is quite difficult. To make a joke, and jokes are often layered. They're often got a build-up, but a joke works with often a basis, misdirection, punchline, but you can explore loads of stuff like that. And I think a lot of the time when we talk about accessibility, a lot of people go, well, comedy's accessible usually, but then they dismiss it. And it's like, for example, like to you, the IT Crowd is the funniest thing in the world. To me, it's like the Young Ones, Bottom, Dad's Army, all that sort of stuff. And because I've looked into comedy so much, I appreciate the art form and this and the other. Or if you want to talk about other things, commedia dell'arte. As some people, that's like the basis of where pantomime came from. And that was satire, satirizing upper class people and different members of society by using grotesque masks and body movements and this, that, and the other. It has a rich history, but we just look down upon it, and I think that's a massive shame too.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, like you said, it's quite a niche thing, like you said, with the poetry. How did you get into poetry? Like you said that you did a film degree, didn't you? You did a bit of theatre studies in college.
In college, I did theatre, film, and media, and then I went to
Yeah.
university and did contemporary theatre at Lancaster University, and I also did minors in sociology and film.
Yeah.
Because I just love that sort of stuff. That's just what I am. Now, when I also went and I know I'm going to sound like I'm showing off here. I don't mean to, but it's what happened. I also then went to do a PGC for post-compulsory education to teach media, film, and film studies, media, film, and theatre studies. That's it. And I also taught BTECs as well and stuff like that. And I have a passion for it, and I want to give that to other people. Again, I want to make it more accessible. I want to bring you in. I want to go, this is the world that I love. This is the world that I understand, and it's for you too. Come on in. Come on in.
Yeah.
Let's do this. So yeah, I've always been in theatre and performing and stuff like that. As I said, you've known me for most of my life. We've not always known each other, but we grew up together. You know, I've been performing then. We performed in the Beggars Opera at college and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
It's what I've always done. And just randomly one night I was asked if I wanted to go see John Cooper Clarke, the Bard of Salford. And I didn't, and it's sacrilege to say this now, but I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, he's one of the most original punk poets in Britain. And I went to see him, and I was like, oh, it's poetry. Oh, God, what's this going to be like? Because my only real experience of poetry was like AQA crap that you learn at school that no one enjoys because you're forced to learn it. The older you get, the more you can appreciate it when you come to it yourself. And obviously it's stuff like that, and then like sonnets in like Shakespearean plays and stuff like that. Luckily, I do like Shakespeare, and that was all right. But I went and saw him, and he did a poem called "Evidently Chicken Town," and that poem is just the F word followed by something else. It's really quick. You keep going on and on and on and on, and it's really funny. Yeah. And he also did some other poems that are just really, really funny. And I was like, oh, I didn't realise this is what poetry could be like. Yeah. And I love doing comedy, and I like trying to write jokes, and certainly that I write jokes all the time. I draw humorous stuff, usually under the moniker Some Panels, and Some Panels, miserable misanthropy drawn badly and stuff like that. And because I'm really into comedy, I love comedy, and this and the other, that I was like, oh, well, maybe I could do this. I think I could possibly give it a go. So I just started from there. I just was like, right, let's write some, because I started off just writing poetry, which, you know, nothing wrong with that at all. I can appreciate it. You know, some people do it and it's amazing. I don't think I'm that great at doing straightforward poetry, just this, that, and the other. So I started just thinking, when I got told that me being an artist takes the piss out of real artists, I was like, well, actually, I am quite good at taking the piss out of things. Like, that's what I like to do. Yeah. So why not, instead of using that as a thing against me, why don't I just lean into it? So then I started writing jokey things and this, that, and the other, and then people liked it, and then I did some nights, just doing poetry nights and this, that, and the other, and I started getting more confident doing the poetry nights, and then I was like, I can perform more here. I can add this to it, instead of just reading it, which I never like doing anyway. I don't like just reading things. I was like, I'll move here, I'll point here, I'll do this, and then my poems started to become scripts.
Yeah.
More than anything, which is why I don't often put it out to read. They're often more like a script in my head where I'm like, oh, that'll be funny. I'll pause here. I'll say this, move on. And then I started just doing that more and more and more. And then I just got more confident doing it, really.
Yeah. So obviously I saw you in Dirty Blondes. Which was the first poem that you actually did first? I know obviously I've seen you do Sold Out and Dad Jokes. They're the two that I can come to the top of my head. Were they like one of your first ones that you wrote, or do you still perform the first ones that you wrote, or were you just like, oh, that's not good anymore, let's write better ones? So, yeah.
Well, the thing about that one at Dirty Blondes was I was going to do Sold Out anyway, because Sold Out's my favourite thing I've ever written ever. It's my favourite thing I think I've ever made.
Yeah.
And that came out of heartbreak, actually. So that was a poem about, basically, the gist of it, the joke I was like, wouldn't it be funny if a man was trying to do a real poem about how his heart's broken, but he couldn't afford to get there, so he had to sell the poem to as many people as he could to afford the train ticket, and to get there and back, so how expensive it is. I was like, well, wouldn't it be funny then if you had to do that and you had to explain at the start, you had to do that, then he'd have to mention every product that he's done in there, like everything's an advert. And then I just worked back from there, and I was like, well, it's a genuine thing about heartbreak. It is about me. And I was like, and I couldn't explain how I felt when I was really depressed and sad. And I was like, I write poetry, but I can't do it. But I was like, but I know media and film, and I could give examples of things in the film to explain it. So wouldn't it be funny if I incorporated all that into one thing? And that's where it came from. And so, like, I've done it a few times, and it's just, it's something that I just really love doing. And again, it's like a part of me expressing myself, but through a way which I think people find quite interesting, and laugh, and it gets laughs sometimes. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, sod it, I'll do it. And I was like, I'll do that. And I was like, I'll do dad jokes because that can live or die on its arse, but why not? And I went to it on my own.
Jokes?
Exactly. So I was just like, but I went to that night completely on my own. I was just back in Blackpool visiting family.
That's what I mean. I didn't know you were there. Like I said, I just came in because my mate was doing some stand-up, and I haven't seen him do stand-up. And he went to go and do some gong shows in Liverpool and that kind of thing as well. And he was like, I'm going to do this open mic night. And I knew Matt Davenport anyway. So I was like, yeah, I'll go and I'll support you. So, and obviously I just look around and you're there. So I'm like, oh, hello.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just sat at the back, very nervous, because I was just, I sometimes do open mic stuff and that, or like, you know, nights for poetry stuff of my own.
Yeah.
Because not everyone wants to see what I do. Not everyone, quite a lot of people have seen what I do. So I don't force them to see it every time. Luckily, the housemates that I live with now, they're often quite happy to come see it again, even though, and I do try and change it up and do different things. But yeah, I just came along because I was like, I'm back. There's this new bar that all the people in the art scene were talking about in Blackpool that I know, and they're like, it's a great bar, you should go. They were like, I think you'd really like it. And there was an opportunity to go where I wouldn't just be on my own drinking in a corner like a divorced dad. Yeah. So I just thought, right, okay. And then, so I decided to go, and I got there, and I just realised very, very quickly that everyone that was on before me, because they were like, oh, you're going to be on at this point, is that okay? I was like, yeah, fine. Everyone that was on before me was a stand-up. Everyone. And they were all funny. And I was like, oh, didn't think that's this kind of night. I didn't know it was a comedy night. Didn't think it was a stand-up night. So at the back of the room, I was like, right, shit, what do I do? I was like, luckily, I've done jokes and stuff a few times, and I was like, right, I might be all right here. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then I got up, and then the first poem that I did, which is I call it The Hand of Hope, which is a joke poem.
It starts off really seriously, so if I can remember.
Yeah. I wrote that 10 minutes before I turned up. Because like, I need to do something, because I was like, it's an open mic night, and every time they go, here's a poet, everyone goes, oh shit. And I was like, no, I want to be a bit different. So I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I really laid into the I'm a poet thing? But then I need to do something to bring you in, and by doing so, at the end, by doing the punchline that I do, I'm like, breaks it down straight away. And then I'm like, my name's Ant, good evening, I am not, you know what I mean? It's so self-aware. And I was like, right, I'll do it, and I don't know how it's going to go. I have literally no idea how this joke's going to work. And as soon as I did it, it got a good laugh, and I was like, I'm safe, I'm all right. Yeah. But then I was like, right, now I've got to get through these poems, because I did 3. I think I did Sold Out, Dad Jokes, and Insults. I think I did Insults as well, with like some jokes in between. And I was just riffing those because I was nervous. And I was like, like that. Yeah. But luckily, they seem to go down quite well. And Matt Davenport on your podcast was quite complimentary about it, which I'm really thankful for. Yeah. And yeah, I was just doing things on the fly and doing the poems. But luckily, the room seemed to really like it. And I was super stoked about that. Yeah, and like I said, I was there at the time, and I can vouch for that. Like I said, the audience loved it. I loved it. I think it was great, because again, I only see you via Facebook usually, so it was nice to see you actually perform and do the kind of things they do, because I only kind of knew your poetry side via who we can go on to now is Mr. Pub Poet Ash Lister. Yeah. So obviously I know he does these, what are they called? Pub Poet Night.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called now, like Deaf Jams.
Oh, Haiku Deathmatch.
Haiku Deathmatch, yeah. So he does what...
Never ever gone up against him with that, because I can't write haikus for one, and he does write more than me, to be honest.
Yeah, so I know one of my classmates at the time actually went up against him He lost in the final. I was like quite surprised, like it's his first time doing it, but it just seems like such a strange thing because so obviously the to the normal person, you don't think like poetry can come up to like haiku deathmatch or comedy poetry or this kind of thing. Everyone just thinks, like I said, her wind blows in their air.
Yeah, they always think,
it's just that's what. Yeah.
I wandered lonely as a cloud and all that sort of stuff. That's
Yeah.
where it always goes. And again, I'm trying to change that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's I absolutely loved it. And like I said, Matt Davenport said it as well, and they've even said, I don't know if they've spoken to you since, but they even said that they would happily get you on to actually do proper shows as well when they're back up and running again. Obviously, if you can come to Blackpool, don't know, but you know, but that's
Well,
going
I'd
on
be
at the
more
moment.
than happy to. I'd take that as a huge compliment, to be fair, like a massive compliment to me. So I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, but obviously we'll go on to the big C word now with COVID because, like I said, everything got locked down, and that's the hardest thing for somebody to be creative and do. So I've seen you on Facebook doing your own little shows and stuff. So when COVID happened, how did you find the time to be creative and do everything that you've done?
Well, I was furloughed for one, so I had time. But it was very difficult to begin with. Like, I'm not. I don't think I'm going to say anything that other people haven't really said.
Yeah.
But I found it super difficult, and like, and again recently I found it a bit hard as well with this second wave and this and the other. For me, it's the gravity of everything. Like the gravity of it all. Like hearing about all these deaths, hearing about cases rising, and not knowing, am I next? Have I spread it without knowing? It's kind of like Schrodinger's virus. Like you can be asymptomatic and still spread it, or you can be symptomatic and spread it. Is it a cold? How do you know? Here's a way of knowing, but then the next evidence comes out saying it's contradictory. It's so confusing and scary. And like, for example, I took the decision to begin with to not come back to Blackpool because my parents are both diabetic for one, and you know they also have other things, underlying health conditions. And like, I live in a shared house in Manchester, and one of my jobs that I do is working with people. And I was like, so I'm not socializing, but I'm surrounded with people a lot. And I'm very strict on my PPE. I wash my hands all the time. I have hand sanitizer in my back pocket all the time. I've cut down going out a lot and this, that, and the other, because I want to be as safe as I possibly can, not just for me, but for other people too. I think that's really important. And at the start of it, I kind of knew how it was going to go. I guessed. Because at the start, in like January, when we started hearing about it, I remember very distinctly, I was on a tram going to Media City, and I got a news alert on my phone saying new virus found in China, this, that, and the other. And I remember going, this is a bit weird. They've never reported it quite like this. And luckily, because of my background in media studies, I started looking further and further. I know it sounds very considerate, but I've got a way of doing it. I was like looking further. I was like, what's this source? What's this source? I was like, I'm going to keep my eye on this.
Yeah.
Another week or so later, it started confirming more and more and more. It's like spreading here and spreading there. I was like, right, this has never happened before that I can remember. I remember SARS as a kid a bit and being terrified of that, and bird flu and swine flu.
Foot and mouth and stuff, yeah. But that was never really big, was it? But I mean,
it wasn't, but it might have
been. As a
kid,
we probably don't, yeah.
That's what I mean. It might have been, but as a kid, we don't really know. And I hope to God kids now don't remember it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe when we were kids, SARS and that was actually massive, but we were kids. It didn't make sense to us, and I'm hoping that happens to this generation now. But yeah, and then I remember ringing my parents one day and going, "Mum, Dad, I don't think I'm going to be able to come home and visit you anytime soon." And they were like, "Nah, don't be silly. It's all right. Be fine. I think you're just panicking." And I do have health anxieties and things, so it made sense. But I was like, no, honestly, I mean this. Something's wrong, and I can't tell you exactly what it is because I don't know. But something about this is wrong. A couple of weeks later, we're into lockdown, and it all got really bad. And like, one of my jobs is working in the city centre, and I started noticing people weren't coming in. It got ghost towny. And I remember one day walking into the Tesco's in the city centre, and I saw two people putting as much food and as much toilet roll, obviously, and this and the other, into a into 2 suitcases, and these were big suitcases. They were stocking up.
Yeah.
I'd never seen that before. And I remember that broke me one day. Like, just one day I couldn't. Just broke me. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I can't. And then we went to lockdown straight after that, and I was still a bit broken from it. I was still like, I couldn't handle it. It was just mental. Like, and I don't think I'm on. The weird thing is, I'm not on my own with that. And then obviously that affected my work and my output. And then obviously a lot of jobs that I had lined up all went as an artist. So I had to deal with all, like, basically feeling my world crumble very quickly. And, like, again, not on my own on this. But I took it as in I had nothing. I had no purpose. You know what I mean? Like, I just sort of found it. Every day I got up, had a shower, sat about. What can I do? Couldn't really do anything. But then luckily I decided that I can't do anything. I'm not a nurse. You know what I mean? I'm not a key worker, sadly, or anything like that. I was like, well, what can I do? What can I give? Can I do anything here to help? And I knew a lot of my friends were struggling, and I knew, family was struggling, and people were just struggling. And I was like, well, I'm struggling too, but I can entertain, I think. I can try and make people laugh. And that's where it came from. It became a bit more like in my head, like a duty. And that's going to sound really big-headed and stuff, and it shouldn't do. I hope it doesn't. But I came across, I was like, I can do this. I do this. How can I do it now to try and help people? And so my way around it was mainly for my friends, if I'm honest. People did share it publicly, which was nice. But because I've had mental health issues and this, that, and the other, and like I've suffered depression and all this sort of stuff. I suffered depression for like 18 months. I'd like to think I know it kind of well. I was like, I've got to do something that would help me out. And by helping me helping me out was creating, me helping other people out was entertaining through that creation. So I started doing that, and luckily, because I did that, I started getting more comfortable doing it to camera and this, that, and the other. And as things started picking up a little bit again, it became easier, but that's where it all started. I couldn't give anything useful. So I thought I'd give something that I could give to try and be useful. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I completely understand what you mean. It's like I've been working throughout it all, unfortunately, because I'm classed as a key worker. So I had to keep working, but I couldn't just not do anything. Like I said, it's what, like I said, comedians or poets like yourself do. Like I said, you've got that gift. You need to share that with people to uplift their spirits, because everybody's so down. I mean, I know what you mean. I've had depression and mental health issues as well, and probably don't show it as much. But like I said, you try and keep it down to yourself, don't you? So it doesn't inflict anybody else, and that gets you down even more. That's mental health, isn't it? So you don't want to inflict on anyone else. It's the worst thing to do,
but it's the only thing that seems viable at the time.
Yeah. So like I said, it was to go out and do that and spread that joy. If everybody did that, hopefully the world would be a better place, wouldn't it? But
people do it.
Yeah.
People do it, and I think a lot of joy comes. You don't have to be a poet, a performer, an artist, or anything like that to spread joy. I think people do it every day, and I'm going to sound like a poet here, and I know that's going to sound a bit weird, but genuinely, like, one of the nice things you can do at the moment is just be kind, just be nice to each other, because we're up shit creek. There's no denying that. So the best thing to do is just be nice to each other, because if someone's having a bad day and this, that, and the other, it seems like a cliche now, but it genuinely is true. If someone's having a really bad day, the thing they will remember is a bit of kindness in that day, and that can make their day. Like, I've worked in retail for a long time, and one of the best things that can happen in retail is if someone is just nice to you briefly. If they say, oh, thanks, mate, have a good day, cheers for helping me out, or, do you know what I mean? Like, just smiling at you and being polite and pleasant, that can change everything in the matter of a minute. And I think the one thing that we all can do during this time is do that. And I think that it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a poet. You don't have to be a comedian. You don't have to be an entertainer. You can do exactly what those people do in your own way by doing something as small as that. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I don't know if you do the same as well, like I said, because I've worked in retail for the better part of, say, 10 years as well. We had this, like, hear my voice card, so you can give back feedback online as well. And if somebody puts your name in there, like I said, you get that little adrenaline boost of like, oh, like this person's taking time out of their day to say some nice words about you, kind of thing. And like I said, if everybody was that, but unfortunately you just see some people, I don't know, again, I'm going to be derogative towards Blackpool. It's probably the same everywhere else, but you walk down the street I can't say hello to people because if you say hello to somebody, they'll just look at you like, what are you doing? We live in that culture now where you can't go and speak to a stranger, or it's very rare you'll be in a park and somebody sat on a bench and you can actually have a conversation, which luckily happened to me a few months ago and it was really, really nice. But if you're walking down the street and you try and spark up a conversation with somebody, they're just going to walk away, aren't they? That's just the culture that we live in now. I get a bus every day with my daughter and we just sat on our phones all day, like everybody on the bus. Like there's no conversation, there's no togetherness.
That is unfortunately a reality, but at the same time, there's still things you can do. It's just simple things like someone's trying to get someone to move out of the way or smile. Obviously, you can't now because I wear a mask all the time. This is one of the only times I don't wear a mask is when I'm in my room. And so, but you can still see someone smiling with their eyes, and like, if someone's trying to reach something in a shop and they can't do it, as long as you can do it socially distancing, just do that for them. And it's little things like that that right now you can do. It's a bit more because the paradigm has shifted. It's shifted, obviously, like little bits like that where someone's shopping, they're really nervous about shopping. So make sure that you don't make a massive point of it, but do just slightly move out of the way for them and this, that, and the other. And people do recognise it. People do understand that you're trying to look after them because when you go shopping now, you'll notice not many people are wearing masks as much as people should be. People aren't social distancing, but we do remember and appreciate the people who do.
Yeah.
So just do that. It's as simple as that, really. And I think that's quite sweet in a way. But it's also terrifying because we have to do that. But like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where I think there's a lot of kindness in the world. We just remember the nastiness because it's easier to remember the horrible things that happen than it is easier to remember the nice things. We only remember the nice things in hindsight, where the horrible stuff stays with us at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So with COVID, does this give you any new material or any time to write new stuff about COVID or the virus at all? Have you managed to do anything along those lines?
I did. I wrote a new piece because I've got a piece that I've done about mental health because obviously it is a thing that's important to me. It isn't a joke piece. It is a genuine thing because it was all about my depression and me trying to help people as well. Called There Is a Place Beyond the Trees. And I did rewrote it for COVID called There's a Place Beyond This Disease. And the sentiment's pretty much the same. It's saying that we will get through this. There is a place beyond this. And the reason so it's there is a place beyond the trees and it is beautiful. I repeat that all the way through. And then at the end of it, I say, there is a place beyond the trees. And the reason it is beautiful is because you're there. And it's me saying that you're going to get there. And me trying to say, like, there will be a place beyond this. This will end one day. This too shall pass. But then when I did that, I felt like I did enough. I don't want to keep talking about it because for me, it's all we talk about now. It's everywhere. It's the news all the time, no matter what. It was like how Brexit was, except this one's going to kill way more people. It was like, remember when it was Brexit and it's like Brexit, and that's what we talked about. Now it's COVID. And I want to try and give people a little bit of something outside of that. I want to sort of go, this is happening and it's really important. But I'm going to try and tell you some jokes now. I'm going to try and do this. And let's just me and you for the next hour, for the next 10 minutes, for the next 5 minutes. Let's me and you just have this break from it. And I think that's what we need. We need this break from it because recently, for example, I've been really down about everything that's going off with the second wave and everything like that. Yeah. I've got very strong views on what the government have done. I think fucked it. But like this and the other. But at the same time, I needed someone to just bring me out of it. And the way people do that by just making me laugh.
Yeah.
And laughter to me is one of the most important things in the world. It's everything to me. Laughter. It's one of the most important. If I don't have a big laugh during a day, there's something wrong. I will have a big laugh at something. And that's what I want to do. If that's how I function, and I know that's how I function, other people are the same, and I just want to give them that. Because if I keep mentioning COVID all the time, all I'm doing is adding to it when I want to take away from it. Do you know what I mean? Just give you something else.
Yeah, exactly. This will be the last thing that I say about it's not really on COVID, but I know as a film student yourself as well, and you spoke about it briefly before, it's the media. So if the media have brought it a lot more worse than what it could actually be as well. Like I said, it's scaring. Like the media can use certain words and certain phrases to obviously scare the UK into doing all kinds of. I don't know if it's just me or stuff as well, but I think it's not as bad as what the media make it out to be.
Okay, I would
Yeah,
disagree. I
fair
think
enough.
it is as bad. I
Yeah.
think it is as bad.
Don't get me wrong, I still follow all the precautions and stuff, like obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a different conversation for a different time. I do think it is as bad, and I think it's not so much as what the media does, because the media does what the media does, and we're used to it. I think there's two big problems, and I think this is number one. Number one biggest problem is I think we do not have enough emphasis on media studies in education. And I think of media studies and film studies, they're often looked down upon, they're often seen as joke subjects. They're not now. I want to say this very, very, very distinctly and very clearly. Media studies is the English literature for the 21st century. It's that important. And that actually isn't a quote from me. That's a quote from, you know him as well, Matt, our old theatre teacher.
Jones.
Matt Jones. He told me that when I did my PGCE with him. He was like, it's that important, and it's never rang truer than now. I think we need to be more media literate, and I think there's probably like the uptake in like conspiracy theories and this, that, and the other is if we had a lot more media literacy in this country, we'd be able to disseminate fact from fiction. We'd be able to disseminate the language used, why it's used, how it's circulated, and all that sort of thing. That's really, really important. And the second problem that we have with the media that I would say is it's the sheer volume of it. That's the problem. It's you open up Facebook, it's there, it's everywhere. It's like social media is the exact same. It's not just an echo chamber, it's just constant. And because it's 24-hour news, it has to be there. Someone's just been run over. We've got a reporter now on the scene. Why do we have to be on the scene where someone's just been run over? Just tell me they've been run over. Why now do I need someone to be like, and here's the smashed up car? Like, you don't need to show me that. Do you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. It's a sheer volume, constant, 24 hours all day. And I think that sort of pummels people down to the point where, like, I don't know what to do. It's too much. And because we can't turn off from it, because the amygdala in the back of our brains is like, that's the fight or flight thing. We need to know. So we get more into it. But then the more we get into it, the more frightened we get, the more confused we get, because we start reading different things and this, that, and the other. And that causes problems in the future. But if we had more media literacy, we know where to look properly. We probably understand it a bit better, and I think we need to invest in the future so heavily.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of thing I was going on about. Like, I'm not saying that obviously this virus isn't serious. I meant, like I said, because the media's there all the time, it can dissect your views to obviously be like. I think the foot and mouth, obviously, if we had media back then, it would have been a lot bigger than what it was. That's the kind of thing I was trying to say. Like, I'm not saying it's not big or it's not like dangerous. Obviously, people have died from it. But if the media were back when foot and mouth was, it was probably going to be bigger than coronavirus. I think the media are making it this massive, like, because, like I said, the media are there all the time. It's like there. The media just basically saturate your brains to be like, this is all you're going to talk about, and this is always there. Whereas if you didn't have media or anything, would it have gone by now? I don't know. Because people would have just gone out. I mean, you don't know, do you? But I know, say if this happened 20 years ago, you don't know, do you? So I don't. In my own head, I think about it, but I don't know.
Fair enough.
If I'm just going completely off topic, but yeah.
No, that's all right. we have diverging views on that, but that's totally fine. That's not a problem.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll go back to like I said, the with everything else. So you're doing can't remember what I was going to say now. So how was it when you started it? Like, how long have you been doing? You said that you did your PGCE, but you didn't want to become. Did you not want to become a teacher, or just
not
went
straight
into the
away?
poetry, you know?
Not straight away. I felt a little bit like I did it and I enjoyed it. It was hard work, very hard work, because I did it a year, sort of like a year intensive. And I did it, and it was very, very difficult, and it was one of the hardest years of my life doing it.
Just out of curiosity, where did you do it?
I did it at Blackpool Sixth Form.
Oh, did you? Because I'm doing it now at the Blackpool and the Fylde.
Yeah, I did. So I lived in Liverpool at the time for a year, and I did it at Edge Hill University, and then my placement was back in Blackpool. So I went to Edge Hill University, got a place to live in Liverpool, and they sent me back to Blackpool, which was really annoying.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience because luckily I knew the teachers because I'd been there and they knew me. And Matt Jones was my mentor, which was great because I knew him and he was brilliant. He's the reason I kept going because I found it so difficult, but he was constantly supportive, always ready to help me and all this sort of stuff, not a problem. And the whole media and visual department were brilliant with me. They were so good. And so I did it. And I remember when I finished, I was like, oh, that was difficult. And I wanted to take some time off anyway because I was absolutely exhausted. But then I thought about it and I was like, I've just done 4 years of university and then I could go teaching, but I'd just be basically regurgitating everything I've just learned. So like, I hadn't had any experience in the field that I wanted. And I've always been a performer and I've always wanted to be, originally I always wanted to be an actor. That's what I always wanted to be as a kid. And like, I decided that I was just like, well, why don't I just try and get some experience in the field then? Like, why don't I just do it? And then I can then go to the students afterwards and go, here's what I did. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't. And that's one of the reasons I started doing it. I was just like, well, why not do it then? I was like, I'll keep going. And then I did, randomly once, my mum got an email, and the email was for artists in Blackpool to go on this artist course. It was like a self-development course. And my mum was like, oh, you should do this. You're an artist, Ant. And I was like, nah, I'm not. That's ridiculous. Don't be stupid. My mum was like, no, do it. And I was like, no, I'm not an artist, Mum. I just draw things and this, that, and the other, but I wouldn't count myself as an artist, because I didn't understand what an artist was.
Yeah, you just think it's just basically with paintings and a canvas. That's what, if you think what an artist is, it's a drawer,
straight
isn't it?
Away, stereotypical as that, and that's not what I do. And then, so I didn't understand. My mum forced me in there. She was like, right, you'll get on. I was like, all right. So I did it, and I was just like, right, get you off my back. It'll be fine. And then I got a call, and they were like, oh, we really like what you said. We think you'd be good for this. Could you come in for an interview? And that was with Left Coast Blackpool. And I was like, okay. Went for an interview. I had to go when I was on my lunch from work once. I had to literally take off my uniform, put on a suit and go, and then come back and then go back to work. And I got a call that night saying, we'd like you to come aboard. We'll pay for you to go here. And so, I ended up going around the Northwest on different weekends for like artists' residencies and things. And during the course of that, the people I were with, the other artists, and a few from Blackpool, a few from Briarfield, a few from like St Helens, and we went and stayed in all these places. We even stayed in Blackpool for a weekend, and this, that, and the other. They were some of the first people ever, if you weren't my parents, who would do it anyway because they're very supportive, who were basically like, no, you are an artist. You do this, you do that. You could do this. And it was amazing to have people believe in me in that way.
Yeah.
And I decided one day there and then, all right, let's give it a go. And a few years later, I'm still doing it. And it's a very difficult place to do things. I have to find work a lot, and I do make work and this, that, and the other. But then, because I did it, a few people got to know me, and because they knew me, they were like, oh, you might be good at this. And I got recommended to a few things. And then I did my first ever real art thing that I did was I sat in barbers in South Shore at Revo, and I listened to men talk about things while they were getting their hair cut, and it was about mental health and things. And I wrote a poem about what they did, and I did a workshop with them about writing poetry and using it as an expression, rather than seeing it as this flowery thing. Write it, it doesn't have to perform, no one has to read it, but it's a good way of writing down how you feel and being as expressive as you want with it, and it's valid. And then I ended up doing an animation on Little Martin Windmill at the edge of Mearside, parts of the Illuminations. And it was people who just was like, no, you can do this. And having that was insanely useful. And I think that's what we need for definitely for students and things. Like, I'm sure we're going to go into it, but like the arts at the moment are in a dire situation. And I think a lot of the time, it's a lot of things that students need, especially kids, and that is just to be told you can do something.
Yeah, especially like I said, touching on that now, with the art thing that's going on at the moment, saying it's not a real profession or anything like that. I mean, I love they've started doing that Fatima thing, haven't they? Whatever it is.
Well, actually, that's an old poster from I think a couple of years ago about I looked into it, and it was about digital, and it was like an initiative to get people into cyber jobs, digital jobs and jobs within that industry. And it's just come about again now because I think someone found it and they were like, well, this is what they've always thought. And in my opinion, yeah, the Tories have always thought that. So even if it is an old campaign, it's still relevant now. And even if the Rishi Sunak apparently was misquoted when he said the arts weren't viable and this, that, and the other. But the problem is with that is even if it was a misquote, even if it was, the sentiment has always been there. We've always felt it. The arts get funding taken from them a lot. The arts is also where, so a lot of places that have high degradation, social economic issues, and this, that, and the other. A lot of places that have lost funding for like mental health issues and this, that, and the other, mental health resources. Often the arts are left to mop it up. A lot of the things that you do, if you go for like a socially engaged art practice thing, a lot of it is around mental health and offering sort of like a mental health service through art. And we're not, artists aren't always qualified to do that, but it's what sort of gets left to them. And I think it's always been sort of seen as art's just drawing pictures and this, that, and the other. It's not real. It's not a real profession. When, mate, I can tell you it is. It's hard work. I'm self-employed. I do my own tax returns. You know what I mean? I find work. I have to go through contracts. I write my own contracts. There's loads of paperwork you have to do, safeguarding you have to do if you're going to work with people. You need to have insurance to work with people, your own insurance, or else you could be sued if something goes wrong. Can't remember what it's exactly called, but you have to buy it. You have to pay for it. And you have to do other things. Like I could spend hours on a spreadsheet better than the government can actually do, working out my finances and stuff like that. And you know what I mean? To budget for things. And if I want to apply for a pot of money to do a project, I have to write an entire proposal. We're talking budgets. We're talking what group of people am I going to connect with? How am I going to connect with them? Am I going to hire other artists? Here's my breakdown. It's very difficult. It's not just drawing pictures. It's not just dancing. There's so much in it. To write a proposal, to write application takes forever, and you don't always get money. And if you write, say for example, what people don't always understand is when it comes to getting money for like from the Arts Council or something, you can send off an application and you're going to have to take a long time to write this, and there's only a closing date. You don't hear back about that for months. So in between that time, how do you live? You've got to do other things as well. And then you might hear back from that and not get any money. You might not get a single pound. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you've wasted all that time, and some people pay people to write these things for them because some people can't. And then you get all that, and then you get told. The problem is then you get that misquote that comes out, but that's already shared by people who share that sentiment around the world. I don't know what's going on with the telly. That gets shared around the world. Like they always say, there's a good saying where it's like a lie is around the world before the truth even gets its pants on. And people who agree with that sentiment will share it, will agree with it, and it emboldens that view. And I've already had that view for a long time. Me doing theatre at university, laughed at. Me teaching students how to do art and this and the other, theatre and media studies and film studies, get laughed at a lot for stuff like that. And again, it emboldens those people without real understanding of what the arts is and what the arts does. And that's where a lot of the contention, I think, comes in. So I'm going to champion the arts as much as I possibly can, because for some people, the arts is a release. It's a life. For me, it was like I'm certified dyslexic, and growing up, I didn't understand a lot of things because dyslexia it's a mental thing. It's the way that information goes to the brain. The way it was described to me was like, for a normal brain, information goes in like parallel lines, whereas dyslexia, there's crisscrosses here, there, and everywhere. So certain processes and sequences don't always match up. And for me, it's writing. Like, I can't spell that well sometimes, and writing an essay is harder than writing a poem because there's two different paradigms of writing. And knowing that that's my own experience, knowing that, The sad thing is, what's really frustrating about it is, I know that because that was me. There's other people out there exactly the same now. And as a student, as a kid, luckily my parents were really supportive, and teachers were a bit more supportive, and I was offered the arts, and I used that to bridge the gaps of my misunderstandings. A lot of students now, because of this way that the arts is being maligned and laughed at and whatever, and seen as not as important or as a joke, we're going to lose a generation here of students who could have done more.
Yeah.
And that's the sad truth. That's the problem. Because the arts offers more. It gives what we call the hidden curriculum. And you're doing a PGCE now. You're gonna have heard Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
No, I've literally been doing that all day today.
There you go. Just write it in every essay, mate. You're going to be all right. Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Pavlov's behavioural theories. So you're going to get that a lot. And to even achieve self-actualization, you need to get everything else underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
But self-actualization, the arts can give you some of those things, like safety and understanding and this, that, and the other. It gives you the hidden curriculums like social skills, empathy, speech,
like confidence as well, isn't it? So
confidence. So a lot of kids, I've said this a few times and I stand by it. A lot of the time, the student in the classroom that's behaving badly and acting up, if you give them a different paradigm of learning, if you give them maybe a chance to draw what they're trying to explain, or write something different, like a poem about what they're trying to explain, might not be exactly what AQA want, might not be exactly the other, but I guarantee you that child will start behaving a lot more because they have a different way of expressing themselves that isn't what is considered normal or wanted. And then you can sort of then coax them into doing the other stuff by going, oh, do you remember when you did that? Right, all we need to do is change this and do that. And I think, again, when I said like the arts are there for mental health things, it's so important now. Mental health is a big thing. And it's always been a big thing. It's just now we're learning more about it. And that's why it seems like there's a lot more than there used to be. It's only because we're understanding things. Years ago, smoking was considered fine. It isn't now. We know this. We've learned this. It's knowledge. And I think with mental health and stuff like that, the arts give people a chance to express themselves and understand themselves, and rather than bottle it up and become worse, they've got all this stuff. And I think when we put it down, when we understand that, when we start to understand that, and we will eventually, maybe not now, we'll then understand that the arts are completely viable. They've always have been. They always will be. But the biggest thing we need to do now as artists, or whatever you want to call yourself, is you in the arts creative sector. The biggest thing we have to do is not allow the government that has said these things, has taken money out of these things, has put cuts into things. We can't allow them to then allow the renaissance of the arts, because there will be a renaissance of the art. There always is when there's problems. The arts comes back stronger and better than ever with a renaissance. We can't allow the government to use that to gain financial capital, because they'll do it. They'll do it. They'll go like, oh, isn't it great? We've brought the arts back. We've done this. We've done that. And you have to then go, well, you destroyed it to begin with. You can't now take the rose
credit. Yeah,
fixed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the funniest things I found with that, just going back to that poster, I think somebody recently posted on Facebook. It was the picture, and it's just like, so you can't even do a poster without the arts. I mean, you've got hairdressers, costume, graphic designers, like typographers. It's like you can't do a poster without the art. There's so much thing that goes into art. It's not just actors or directors or painters, or you've got all these graphic designers and you've got hairdressers. These are all counted as art, and they're all in that art industry.
And the other thing about that picture is that picture actually is cropped from an actual other picture that had two ballerinas in it. And they cropped that picture of Fatima, it's probably not a name, and then they didn't credit the person whose picture it was. So that's one thing about the arts, is accreditation, and licensing, like Creative Commons licensing and this, that, and the other. It's also a badly made photo. It's not a photo, it's also a badly made poster. It's badly made. Like, the text is hard to read. It's against a bright white background. Like, the lighting in there is bright. Then you use a white text on that, hard to read. And then, like, its spacing's bad. Its spacing's badly done. And I would know that because I'm a graphic designer too. I've made posters. I've made adverts for people. I knew it was just badly made. I thought it was fake when it came out. Turns out it's real. Well, that's mental.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't read into it, but I know, like you said, you have. I just thought it was like this new thing that came out, but I'm just loving all the new memes of it all. Like, they've started incorporating Doctor Who into it now, haven't they? Because they started talking about cyber and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's just a strange place that we're in at the moment, unfortunately. And like you said, with everything that's going on, hopefully the Renaissance, I can't even say it, Jesus.
Renaissance.
The Renaissance will come, and like I said, the art's better. Because like I said, I'm part of a amateur dramatics company, and we're supposed to be doing a show before it got locked down, and we're supposed to be doing a show next year. We're supposed to be doing 2 because it got pushed back, but it just doesn't look like it. Luckily, the Grand Theatre, they're doing a pantomime in December, haven't they? They've decided that they're going to open it up for 2 weeks. London Palladium's reopening to do a pantomime as well, so hopefully it's going to keep going in the right direction. Hopefully, like I said, the bars and clubs, I don't know what it's like in Manchester now with Tier 3, we've been told now that obviously bars have to close unless they serve food, and obviously everything that's going on at the moment. So
yeah,
hopefully...
It's a weird one because, like, for me, a lot of the time they're saying, like, bars and clubs and that is where a lot of transmission of the virus is happening.
Yeah.
And I think I can understand the logic behind that. I could. But the only reason they have any sort of data on that is because bars and clubs are one of the only places that you have to do track and trace.
Yeah.
You don't have to when you go to a supermarket. You don't have to when you go on a bus. You don't have to when you come into a shop. You don't have to when you go into a shopping centre. You don't have to when you go into, like... So where's the data from that? It's only when someone goes, oh, yeah, I was there, that you'd know. But when you have to use track and trace, like with the app and this, that, and the other, that's the only places that are really having to enforce it. So where's your data coming from? It's coming from the places you're enforcing it from. So therefore, no wonder it seems like the biggest places, because it's the only place you've got data from. So it's a really weird one. I don't understand it. Like, I'm not going to bars and restaurants and stuff myself because I just don't... Because any place, I just want to minimise the risk the best I possibly can. And I will minimise it for myself to protect others as well. I don't want it. I don't want to give it to anyone. Like, it's as simple as that. So I'm happy to lose out on a few bits like that to keep people safe. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, it feels like the arts and the hospitality industry are seen as easy targets, in my opinion. Seen as easy targets, but you don't go after, like, why is it... And I agree with this. I think it's weird. Why is it I can go to work and be with people all day, even if it's socially distanced and something like that, be with the public and be with my workmates and whatever, but then I'm with them all day, most days, but I couldn't go for a pint with them after work on our own table. I think that is ridiculous. That is weird. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, it's like I said, it's all mixed messages, and it's just they're trying to do something, but I think with them they probably don't know what to do, so they just put this in place and be like, let's hope it works, I guess. But yeah,
I think they've done too much, and I don't mean that as in too much, as in this. I think what they've done is that they've done stuff, then they've got rid of it, then they've U-turned, then they've got rid of it, then they've U-turned. And I appreciate it's because they don't seem to know what they're doing, but the problem is by doing that, you lose faith in you. Like, I don't have faith in the Tory government anyway. I really do not like the Tories. I hate them. I always have done. So that's my political bias anyway. But when you do this, it'd be like me going to you now. I'd be going, right, Jamie, I need to see you at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Bring your coat. It's going to be raining. And then a few hours later, I ring you and I go, all right, Jamie, it's going to have to be 9 o'clock now. You won't need your cloak because it's not raining at 9 o'clock. Then I ring you again and go, actually, Jamie, it's going to have to be 9:30 and it's raining again at 9:30. Bring your coat if you could, mate. Then I ring you again and I go, actually, we're going to have to go back to 8 o'clock, but apparently it's sunny now, so you won't need your coat at all. At some point, you're going to give up on me. You're like, you have no idea. What are you doing? And then you're just going to be like, well, do you want me there or not? And I go, could you be there at 8 o'clock? And then you turn up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm with you. It's raining. None of us have got a coat on. Freezing, and you're annoyed at me now. And I'm like, well, I didn't know what was going on. And then you're like, do you know what I mean? You end up losing faith. And I think that's what's happened.
It's kind of like me with my Zoom. What's going to happen? Is it going to work? Is it going to be now? We finally got here, and we finally got to record it. So, so I said, I thank you for your patience in that. And it's like you said, it's 2020, isn't it? Like,
it's 2020. Nothing's right. So it's totally fine.
Yeah. So we did speak before. Like I said, you've listened to a few of the other episodes. You're used to what happens next. I hope you've been studying already for this. It's the
Okay.
favourites round. I need to get some kind of jingles, don't I? Like,
Definitely get a jingle. Please get a jingle.
It is now time for the favourites round. Insert jingle here.
I'm going to pretend I heard it. That was a mint jingle. Well done, mate. VQ basis.
Yeah. Well, this is what I mean. It's like I speak to somebody and I was like, I really need a jingle of some sort. I was like, I don't play instruments. I'm awful at playing instruments. The only instrument I can play is a kazoo.
Do it.
And I was
the
like,
kazoo. Do the kazoo.
I was like, that's what I was like, should I just make one with the kazoo? It's just like
Definitely.
I might do that. So who knows when you listen to it. Let's see what happens. But we're gonna start with the favourite movie.
My favourite movie is an easy one. It's actually, I got two, and they're very different. Is the 1922 silent horror film Nosferatu. That is my favourite film of all time because of how of a visceral impact it had on me when I was growing up. I saw it in IMAX. Growing up, like in year 6, I remember it very, very distinctly because I think I won some sort of competition to take our class to the IMAX for the day, and they were doing like a history of cinema. And I was really, we shouldn't have watched it. It was definitely not age specific. I remember it was like violent and shit. I think I saw like a bit of Halloween in it. And then they were like, "Oh, this is the silent film Nosferatu," and I think they thought because it was a silent horror film, it wouldn't be that frightening. Mate, it scared the bejesus out of me. And ever since then, it's still not frightens us, what unnerves me, because it's black and white, it's silent, hand crank camera. And if you get a good score on it, because there's many different scores with it, I've got different versions of different scores. I even saw it live with a musical accompaniment. That was insanely good.
Yeah.
That film can go from just a hokey, or what's this, to basically like you're sat watching the video from The Ring. And it's like for about an hour, and it's just in your face. It's the story of Dracula, slightly embellished, but because they couldn't get the rights for Dracula, they just called him Count Olaf and just did it anyway.
Yeah.
The main character, Max Schreck, who plays the vampire, is this tall, gangly man, and he just stands in a doorway, but he takes the full doorway up in apart. And there's a bit where you see the boat, the plague boat, and he takes it over, and it's just implied there's like shadows everywhere. It's German expressionism, so everything's a bit of a funny angle and something or the other. Very similar to the film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
I was going to mention that. I was like, with German expressionism and stuff, yeah, because we studied that in film. It's just, like I said, it's very, if you look nowadays for people that are not sure what German expressionism is, it's basically Tim Burton, but better.
Yeah.
And darker.
Like, yeah. It's what Tim Burton emulates, I'd say. Because like Tim Burton does have his own style, fine, but he is emulating German expressionism.
Yeah.
And you can have like the Golem was another one. That's a German expression, mainly all German. But yeah, that is my favourite film of all time because every time I watch it, I get a different experience of it, and that's through the soundtrack alone. It's the same film, but the film itself is creepy. There's a bit where Cadillacs put in coffins onto the back of a horse and cart, but it's early stop motion. You just sort of see it cranking up. It's all crackly and weird, and it's creepy. And the other one is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
So quite similar.
Yeah, the exact same film. Different score though, and it's just because Scott Pilgrim versus the World feels like a film that was made for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what I like. It's video game stuff. I remember when I went to see it, I was with an ex, and all the way through, she was like, "All right, I'll take you to see it." And I was like, dead excited. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be mint." It's like, all right, it's great. Every sound effect from a video game, every reference, I kept going, I know this. This is Legend of Zelda. And I was like, I nerded out. It's the first film I've ever nerded out over. And every time I watch it, I just nerd out over it because I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that sound effect was in there. That's from Gallagher. And it's like stuff like that. It's a film for me. And also the video game. Have you played it? Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game?
I haven't played the game, no. I have seen the film. I'll go into it a little bit more with the film, but
they're releasing the game. Play it. It's a really good beat 'em up, and it's based on the comics, the graphic novels. And I've read them. And the film Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the first opening bit of that film, they used the graphic novel as a storyboard. So if you read the graphic novel and watch the film, you're literally looking at the storyboard. It's nearly shot for shot.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's so detailed and there's so much stuff in it. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal film. It made my honourable mentions of my 2010 films. Like, I absolutely love the film. I almost did put it in there, but I think some other stuff just beat it out. But I love Brie Larson. I think her as Envy Adams is incredible, and the cast like Brandon Routh and Chris Evans and Kieran Culkin, Anna Kendrick. I can't remember her name now. The main girl. It's a Freed Bauer name, isn't it? What's she called?
I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
I just remember she was in the remake. She was in the prequel of The Thing, and that film's awful.
And she was in 10 Cloverfield Lane. I can't remember it, but obviously Michael Cera as well. I love it. Like I said, the soundtrack's amazing. It used to be my cover photo for quite a while. Envy Adams.
Yeah.
On Facebook, at what's it called? Something at Demon
Clash
Head.
of Demon Head.
Yeah, that used to like her singing on the stage because it's actually her singing as well. Like I think
I remember. Yeah. That's a
she's
thing.
incredible.
Clash of Demon Head's an old NES game as well.
Yeah. But no, like I absolutely love that film. I keep trying to get Mercedes to watch it all the time because I used to have that urge just to watch it, and she's like, no, she didn't enjoy it. So I'm like, fuck's sake, I just watch it by myself.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a great film. I think it's one of those as well because it's so nerdy or video game. It doesn't get the appreciation of what it should do in a wider audience, maybe. But
yeah, I think. Yeah. Do you ever listen to Mark Commode?
I don't listen to him. I've watched some of his TV shows, and I did quite a bit of him whilst doing my film as well because he enjoys a film that I absolutely adore as well, which is Howard the Duck. So he's a massive advocate for Howard the Duck. So
never watched it. I know about it, but I've never watched it. I will watch it. He talked about Scott Pilgrim, and he said it was a shame because it flopped. Yeah. When it came out, and he said like it's a really good film. It's just a shame it didn't catch on, but it should do because it's like it's good. And that's the way I talk about it. Whenever I tell people like, oh, I'm not sure about it, I'm like, no, honestly, mate, you like we have all these comic booky films and stuff now, and we had this discussion before we even came on that I really don't like the MCU films. Yeah. I think, in my opinion, it's the death of cinema.
Scorsese.
Yeah, I am Scorsese. I agreed with him. And everyone got really angry at him, and I was like, no, Scorsese's got a point.
He's got some point, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, you want a comic book film, a proper one. You want something to feel like a comic book. You want something to feel like a video game. You want to be nerdy. That's your film.
Yeah.
That's your film, because it has nerdy stuff. It has a KO screen in it when he hits people and this, that, and the other. It has people jumping around and hitting people and doing silly things. It's exactly what a comic book film should be. But then we watch the same film over and over again, just with different actors. And we call that comic booky, and it's not. It's just the same film.
Yeah, like I said, they're not comic book. I think they take their source material from a comic book, but it's not made to look like a comic book. It's made to look like a Hollywood action blockbuster movie, isn't it? Whereas, I know it's completely different.
But then it then capitalizes on it. It's so weird. It uses the comic books and then capitalizes the comic book, and then afterwards it's like, oh, well, you'll like all this nerdy shit. You're like, not really. Yeah. It's all the same film. It's all the same film.
But I'm saying, if Scott Pilgrim got made now, do you think it would be bigger than what it was in 2010 when it came out? Because if you think like, I know it's quite similar, but Ready Player One, like that did really, really well, and it's a really good film as well. But
I think if it got made now, Edgar Wright wouldn't be allowed to make it.
You think he wouldn't?
No. I don't. I think it would be considered too quirky now. I think it'd be an indie film.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just crazy. Yeah,
he wasn't allowed to make. Was it Ant-Man? I think they had a falling out because he was going to make Ant-Man originally.
Yeah.
And he didn't like it. They had creative differences, and I think he would have made it a bit too quirky for them. And they were like, no, it needs to match the rest of the MCU and this, that, and the other. Because whenever they take risks, it's not a risk. It's a colour palette change. That's all that ever is.
Taika Waititi.
I like Taika Waititi. I like his films.
Ragnarok, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, but it's on my list to watch. But I like his other films, Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows, this, that, and the other. I do love his films. I love his humour and this, that, and the other. I didn't think it fit. When I watched a bit of it, I didn't enjoy Ragnarok. I turned it off. But then again, I turned most of them off because I found them the same. But the only thing I can tell you that was different about Ragnarok to anything else was the colour palette. That was it. It was just brighter. edit it a bit quicker. That was it. And I was like, all right. And everyone's like, oh, it's so different. It's so different. I was like, no, it's still the exact same film. It's just brighter. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and I know, like I said, we might as well go on to it. Like we said beforehand, it's just rehashes of it's the same old story all the time, and Marvel and Disney basically rule the world now. Like I said, one film at the top 50 of all time, or franchise, or Disney. So
yeah, it's like I said. It's again what I said before, and I'm happy to go on. I'm happy to go on like the record and say it's like when you get that long thing. It's like for the next 10 years, here's our planned films. I find that depressing. I don't think that's good. I think that's terrible because one, for example, gets rid of any surprise.
Yeah.
Two, that's all you're going to get. That's it. And because it's such a massive franchise, that's all that's going to dominate the cinema. So it makes me not want to really go. Like I'm probably being a bit hipster. I'm probably being a bit pretentious, but I do like independent cinemas because they show things I want to see. Like here in Manchester, before it managed to get into the View or anything like that, the only place to see The Lighthouse, which is my film of the year, just next to Parasite, I went to go see them. I got to see The Lighthouse, but I had to go to an independent cinema to see it. But I didn't mind because when I go to an independent cinema to see a film, I'll go to watch a film.
Yeah.
It sounds really silly, and I know the people in there are what are there for specifically that film too. It becomes less of a social thing. It's more of a I want to go watch a film, and I want to sit down, really enjoy a film, pay attention. When I'm in a cinema like The View and stuff like that, I can't really pay that much attention because there's just so many people and this, that, and the other. I'm sort of like, I saw Parasite in The View, which was weird though because that was a weird one where loads of people were there. But they were pretty good with watching it. But often my experience of watching a film is my experience isn't very good when I go to like a View and this, that, and the other because it's just a load of people like dicking around, and I'm sort of like, I just want to watch.
It's not the cine literate audience that you would expect to go to say like Parasite or or like an independent.
Yeah, and that's judgmental on my part, and that's me exactly playing into the whole thing. I try and rail against at the start, but that's my decision to watch a film sometimes. So a lot of the time when I go see a film, I'll go to a place where I know I can sit and watch it. That's my thing. I want to go there, and I will pay the premium because you do pay a lot more to go. Well, not a lot more, but you do pay more to go to like an independent than you do anywhere else. But again, I want to see that film. The View ain't going to show me a documentary from Kenya about things that I want to know about. You know what I mean? It ain't going to do that. So I have to go somewhere that I want to watch. And at least then when I know I'm in there, other people watching it are there exactly for the reason I am, which I find quite nice.
Yeah, it's like a small little community of all the people that actually have the same interests as yourself, and it's the place of where you go see it as well. It's the atmosphere. It's like we spoke briefly about Nosferatu on our 1959 and Below podcast for Greatest Movies Ever, because one of my friends went to go see it in independent cinema as well. I was like, could you imagine going to see that film in like a Gothic castle in like Transylvania?
Yeah, I'd love that.
That would be probably like the most outrageous, obscene thing to like go watch. Which just makes me want to go to Transylvania and watch it in a Gothic castle, even though I've never seen it. But you know, but that's what I mean. It's the experience of going out with these typical cinema films. You can just go into a cinema and just watch it. You're not getting the experience of, say, going out and watching a film in like the Regent Cinema in Blackpool or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're not getting that ambience, shall we say, and that creates to the film as well, I guess. But I say that I'm an Odeon Limitless member, so I go to the Odeon all the time. So
yeah, again, there's literally nothing wrong with that. It's just, and I do go to the Odeon, I do go to the View, obviously not now, but I will do to watch films. Like, last time I went to the Odeon, that wasn't Parasite, I went to see Godzilla King of the Monsters, because I do like stuff like that too. But again, like, I had to go to the cinema, I went to what's called Home. I went there to watch Lighthouse, because it was the only place that was showing it at the time before it came to the View. And it's like, that's fine with me. And again, it plays into the pretentiousness because I don't like the MCU and all that sort of stuff. But again, I do watch blockbusters and this, that, and the other. It's just I don't think today's ones are that great.
No, it's they don't make films like they used to. It's like I said, the good thing about doing the podcast is I'm watching some of the older films that they used to make, and it's just crazy to think how cinema has changed over this time, especially as a media or film student. You can actually dissect and you can see where the changes have happened and where it's gone. And Yeah, I'm not going into confirm like film and media terms and stuff. But
Yeah, if I could recommend a film that I've recently just watched that I really enjoyed, it's on Amazon Prime at the moment. It might be on Netflix, I'm not sure. But The Personal History of David Copperfield. That was by Armando Iannucci. He did The Death of Stalin, In the Loop. He also did Thick of It, which I love. The Thick of It, I think it's so funny. But The Personal History of David Copperfield is, if I tell you it's like obviously a retelling of the Charles Dickens book of David Copperfield, you might be a bit like, not interested. Honestly, watch it. It's really funny and it's really imaginative and it's really like the transitions between scenes are great. Like 1 minute, it feels like you're on a stage sometimes. Like the backdrop falls and it's a new scene. You just walk into it. It's stuff like that. It's incredibly good. I would 100% recommend that film if you can watch it at the moment.
Yeah, so we're going to go cinema to watch it. It's Dev Patel, isn't it? Like, so
Yeah,
we're
he's
going to go.
brilliant in it. He's probably the best thing in it.
Yeah. But I said he started to do a little bit, I mean, back from his days of Skins, like to going out and doing Lion and now at these type of movies. I think he was in The Newsroom as well back in the day. But yeah, it's just, yeah, that was on my list to watch. So I know we do need to watch it at some point. I think it's only on Amazon at the moment. But do you have any favourite artists, like singer, band? Like, who would you say?
Yeah, if I go through my favourite bands are Elbow. I think Elbow they're amazing. It's just poetry to music for me. A lot of people see it as like dull, mawkish pub poetry, sad, morose, this, that, and the other. But I find a lot of beauty in it. I really do, and it's got me through a lot of hard times listening to Elbow. I relate to a lot of what he's singing about, and it feels very homely and warm to me. He sings about love and this, that, and the other in a way that normally when I hear it, I'm a bit like, ugh, a bit cynical. But when I hear him sing, when I hear Guy Garvey and the band play about singing it and this, that, and the other, it feels so visceral and real, and it maps how I felt when I've been in love and this, that, and the other. And I think for me that's amazing. Then I like the Flaming Lips. I love how different and weird they can be, and I love, again, they have this weird optimism, apart from the album The Terror, which is not optimistic whatsoever. But like they have this weird optimism about life and stuff like that. And so I love them. Who else? Public Service Broadcasting. I think they're fantastic. They take often old news clips, or, for example, my favourite album of theirs is The Race for Space, where they take recordings from like NASA, from the space race, and this, that, and the other, put music to it. I've got the vinyl over there. That's brilliant. You want to go back to my sort of emo-y days? I've been really listening to a lot of Enter Shikari again. I really like Enter Shikari, especially now they've got a bit older. Like originally when they first did stuff, it was very, you could just call it emo-y and stuff like that. But it's actually got a lot of meaning behind it nowadays. To do a lot of political stuff, which I agree with. They're fantastic. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I've been listening to recently that I really like? I'd go with them at the moment as what I'm really into at the moment, who I really like listening to. I think they're fantastic.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. Elbow, One Day.
One Day Like This.
One Day Like This, yeah. That's what I was just making sure in my head. That was the one that came to my head. I absolutely love that song.
They even say, they even say they have to play it every time they do live gigs because they knew that was their bread and butter, because it's where they got famous.
Yeah.
And
I feel like everybody knows that song. If you don't know it's Elbow, everybody knows that song.
Yeah, and they did it at the Olympic ceremony opening, didn't they, in 2012? And I think it is a great song, and I've promised myself, and this is going to backfire on me badly, the day all this ends, when we can go back to normal, I am going to make something with that song and put it out live or put it somewhere. I might cover it, I might do something with it, because it's a song that means a lot to me, and I think it would be an expression of how I feel. And this, that, and the other, because I'm gonna do something with it anyway. That's my plan, and I've been working on it for a while. So I'll say might do some animation with it or something. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Yeah, I can say I see you on Facebook. Like I said, you always put your drawings on there and your animations and stuff, don't you? So I always see that kind of thing on there. It's like I said, just keeping busy and doing all of that as well. And like I said, then they're just funny as well. Like it's just something to brighten up your day as well. You just see some of it, and it's just great.
That's the point, really. A lot of it I make. I don't often share the work that I get paid for. Sometimes I do, sometimes it's within the contract that I don't. It's just for the company. It's just for the client. But like, it doesn't stop me making things just because I like to make things. Like a lot of the time, I learn a new animation technique and I go, well, how am I going to make something with that? So I'll make an experiment and put it on, and I'll try and make it fun and interesting and nice because a lot of my animations, is quite bright, quite round and soft and this, that, and the other. Yeah. And it's just because I think, wouldn't it be nice if you're just scrolling through, because they call this thing now doom scrolling, where we're just constantly looking for bad news and so I go every now and then.
You watch The Social Dilemma by any chance?
I haven't seen it. No, I don't want to see it because a lot of people are like, "Oh, did you know they do?" And I was like, "Yeah, you say that, but you watched it on Netflix where they've got all your payment again. You watched it on your phone as well." And I'm like, "You're like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this." I'm like, "You also shared it on Facebook, so yeah." I was like, "Everyone knows it. There's someone who knows everything about everyone anyway. Like, it's too late now." And that person who knows everything about everyone must be the most depressed person ever because everyone's boring. But like, oh, ordered 3 packets of Maltesers the other day. Keep your eye on him, like, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I always like the idea of when we're doing that, there's suddenly something interesting, something bright, something colourful, something different. It's just there, and then people can look at it and go, "Oh, that was a nice." Again, it was what I was saying before. They go, even if it's 10 seconds long or whatever, they go, "That was a nice 10 seconds." Yeah. And that little moment in time can mean the world to someone. And it means a lot to me anyway, because I made it, I put it out there. But that could mean something to someone. They don't ever have to tell me, but it might do something. And I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think it's very important for artists as well to, I said this to you, is the feedback. Like sometimes when you said that, I like the poems that you do and everything that you put out there, and you're like, well, I've listened to yours. It just means a lot to obviously show that connectedness and appreciation for each other, because that's what we need in this time as well. Like I said, I appreciate
100%.
you coming on doing it.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here. Like, I remember sending you this message the other day. One of the biggest things you can do for an artist, a creative, or anyone who creates anything, is if you like something of theirs, tell them.
Yeah. Even
if it's only briefly, tell them. You have no idea how much that means to them. Like, to me, when I saw that clip that of Matt Davenport talking about me at Dirty Blondes, I dined off that for like a week. Like, I couldn't believe it. Someone liked what I did and wanted to push me further and put me into something. And you were saying that you enjoyed it. And the very fact that you've said that you've enjoyed it, the very fact that someone else said that they enjoyed it, that one brief moment in time kept me going. It keeps me going. And it's, even when someone just goes, when I come off stage, someone goes, I like that. Or even if you just go, I like that, that's it. That means everything. Like, that makes everything that we do feel worth it. And that is the best thing you can do for anyone. And I think, again, it's those small acts of kindness that have the biggest impact.
Yeah. And like I said, as soon as you said it and I was going through it all, I was like, I'm going to clip that and send it to you even before I even aired it. And so like, literally, it was just like, because I know how much it means, like I said, to have that responsive, positive response back. And like I said, I knew you'd enjoy it. And like I said, yeah, that's just wanted to send it you really. So like I said, it's just nice hearing those nice words, isn't it? So, it's giving somebody that positive feeling.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on. Like, it's so nice that someone wants to talk to me about what I do and is interested in what I think and wants to put that out there. Like, again, it means the world to me.
Yeah, and I know I've said this to you as well. Like, when I originally had the idea to do this, I had a small shortlist in my head of the people that I wanted to do, and I've seen the stuff that you do, and I was like, you were on that shortlist because I think, again, I didn't know most of the stuff that you went through with all art and everything in the background. I knew that you did theatre because obviously, like I said, we did Becca's Opera and stuff, and like I said, it was just all of a sudden you're doing like the poetry, not pub poetry, but you're doing all of that lot, and it was just nice to find out how you got there and your method of writing and basically how you got into it. And it was just, like I said, it's artist supporting artists in it. I'm not calling myself an artist now, but
you should 100%. You should. An artist supporting artist that's the way we get by. Artist supporting artist is the best thing ever, because if you say, for example, if I need someone who can maybe produce a podcast for me, I'd come to you because I know you, and knowing that I know what you can do. If I give work your way, you've given me this, so I'll give you something, and it's like paying it forward. And that's a great thing to do, because what we'll do is that when an artist gives an artist another opportunity, it's less cynical than someone trying to get you to do a job for exposure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when an artist helps an artist, they're both benefiting. When it's someone giving you exposure, there's only one person really benefiting from it.
No, yeah, exactly. And yes, I think that's just one thing that's missing from the world, is that need to help each other. Everybody just wants something for themselves, for financial gain. I don't care if I don't make a single penny out of what I do. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy speaking to people because that's who I am as a person. And I enjoy speaking to these people and learning about them. It's like, again, we've known each other for going on nearly 20 years.
Easy.
Doesn't mean I know everything about your personal life. When you were telling me before about everything that happened before you moved to Manchester, I knew nothing about that. So it's nice to actually have this connection and speak. And I think this is the main reason I wanted to do this, to actually speak to people about their lives, really. So even if we ramble on 20 minutes or half an hour or even 2 hours about COVID-19, it's just having that communication, especially.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, because everyone has a life and everyone has an experience that you don't know about. And it's exactly what we were both saying before, is like these acts of kindness and this, acts and the others, because the way I always think about it is, if I accidentally stub my toe, for example, that's a weird thing to say, but if I accidentally stub my toe and that really hurts, right, and that can like really, really annoy me for like 10 minutes, someone else could have done that today as well. And that pain that I felt, they're feeling. And I'm like, oh, I didn't. Do you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. It's like, it's crazy when you think other people's lives are just as important as your life. You think everything that happens to you and everything that happens in your day, it's specific to you, but someone else is having a day that's just as specific to them. It's crazy. And like, people have so much going on. Like, some people are so talented and you don't know anything about them. Do you know what I mean? This is why I want to help, and this is why I want to keep doing what I do, because I've had a few people say that they felt a bit more inspired to do something because they see how much that I put out all the time. And it's not always the good stuff. Sometimes I just put, if I fail, I sometimes still talk about it. Go, this didn't work, and this, that, and the other. But some people go, oh, I feel a bit more comfortable doing what I want to do. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you did that. And they don't have to share it publicly, but they feel a bit more empowered to do it. And I think, again, it's a life that you don't always know about. And I think by doing what you're doing, for example, by giving people an opportunity like you have today for me to talk about what I do and stuff, you've enriched. This is going to sound really brown nosy, but it shouldn't be. You're enriching my life by giving me a platform.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And by doing so, I think that's a nice thing. It's a thing that we should all do to everyone else, just having a chat, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's especially what's needed at this moment in time with lockdowns and social distances. We live in, obviously, this Facebook generation where everything's just over a message or on Facebook, or likes and comments and everything. This is what we miss, just a typical conversation. Can you remember the last time you've spoken to somebody for an hour to 2 hours? Like, whether that be on the phone or face to face or via Zoom. And this is kind of what my basis of conversations with is about. It's just me having and speaking to people, and I absolutely love it. Like I said, I just love learning about people and all different stuff. Like, again, I'm definitely going to watch Nosferatu and put it on my 24-hour marathon list. So
you have to give me a review.
Yeah, I will. I mean, probably not on the day because I'm going to be knackered. But yeah,
I swear to God, if you've just put wank, I'm going to come after you.
Hopefully not. But I'm doing 9 p.m. Thursday till Friday, 9 p.m. next week. So I'll let you know probably Saturday morning when I'm alive. Well, this is what I mean. That's what I debated, but then I'm like, won't it get taken down because of copyright? Because it's going to have the film in the background. It'll have the sounds and stuff. I don't know.
If it's a live stream, maybe not. If it's archived, maybe.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I debated all different ways to do it, whether I just like live tweet blog it, or whether I just have a camera there for the 24 hours and then upload it after with my thoughts in between, or in between each film and just go, yeah, it's great, I'm still alive.
Or you just do a snapshot of the day. Yeah, you could do a snapshot of the day. That'd be quite good.
Yeah, so I'm still debating because again, I've never done it before. This is what I was saying. Because I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, and I'm in uni Monday, Friday, and I work Saturday, Sunday. I'm not in uni next Friday because progression day, which is always great. So It's like, I'm free on Friday. What am I going to do? Let's watch 24 hours of films. With Halloween coming up, why not? Let's just watch 24 hours of horror films, and then that's my day gone.
I've got Halloween day off because I'm just watching films all day.
Yeah, and it's the dream. As I said, especially as a film student, you just sometimes just take for granted of watching film or TV. You just sit there and just be like, yeah, it's okay. But I'm looking forward to it. Whether I survive the whole 24 hours, I don't know. Hopefully I will. Because 9 p.m. till 9 p.m. is a bit strange, but I have to do it because my working hours. I'll finish work at 8 p.m. and then get ready for 9, and then and then I need to sleep for them, ready for work Saturday morning. So, but we will go back to our questions for a TV show. You've already said it's going to be Young Ones and Bottom.
Yeah, Young Ones and Bottom are my two favourite comedies of all time. Rick Mayall's my hero. 100%. He's always been my hero. And
which you share with Taron as well. Like, I know.
Yeah, I know Taron loves it as well. And like for me, the thing about it is Rick Mayall said, there's a quote that's attributed to him. I'm not sure if he said, I believe he said it, but I can't be 100% sure. But he said, I may be gloriously stupid, but if that helps people forget the misery and mundaneness of normal life, then I'm happy. And that's exactly how I like to live. And I hope everything I've said in this podcast at least proves that to a degree, where I like trying to make people laugh. I like trying to make people, if I have to play the fool to do it, I'll do it. Just because, A, I quite like doing that anyway, and B, it helps people forget what's going on. And like I said, I want to try and, that's why I've not done much poetry in that about COVID or jokes about COVID and this, that, and the other, because I want people to slightly forget about it. And if I have to be the fall guy for you to forget about it, to do daft stuff, then I'll take that role because I'm happy. It makes me happy making other people happy and making people laugh because I know the power of laughter. Because for me, I need it every day. I need to laugh, and laughter is just so important that I want to give that to other people. And Rick Mayall did that for me, and I never met him. Do you know what I mean? I never met him once, but he's my hero because he's made me laugh and still continues to make me laugh even after his death. And that proves to me that if I can do anywhere close to what he can do, it does make a difference. Those are my two favourite comedies of all time, and I mainly watch comedies. I don't watch much telly, if I'm honest. I normally watch a lot on YouTube or I read. And I just find the problem with telly is it's not bad, really. It's that I just never have time to keep up with it. So like I don't really do Netflix series or anything like that because I end up getting to a point where I just end up being so busy, I just forget about it, and then it becomes like a big deal going back to it. So I just sort of go, "Well, what's the point?"
Yeah, it's the only problem with I don't know if it's the same for yourself as well as a medium film student. Because I did at A level as well, and then I did my degree in script writing, so it's analysing films. So it's just basically I can't watch trailers anymore because I watch trailers and I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen at every point in the film. And it's just like, you find it hard work watching a TV show or film because it's just like, I know this is going to happen. They should have done this, or why didn't that happen? Or they should have done this a little bit now.
I can 100% give you an example that happened last night.
Yeah.
So last night my housemate was like, should we watch a film? I was like, yeah, go on then, we'll watch a film. Can we watch a horror? It's coming up to Halloween. He was like, yeah, I've got a film you'll like. It's terrible, but you'll like it. It's like, what is it? And we watched The Descent.
This was on my mini shortlist to watch for the 24-hour film because I've never seen it. Yeah.
Right.
It's about girls that get lost in a hole or something.
Yeah, so
basically.
I mean, that sounds like an innuendo, but it's basically that. So it gets written about being quite good. Like it gets good. It gets talked as being quite a good horror and this, that, and the other. I thought it was awful, personally. Like entertaining, but awful. And afterwards, my housemate was like saying, "What is it you didn't like?" Because at the end, I was like, "That was absolutely terrible." And he was like, "What is it you didn't like?" And I tried explaining it to him, and I was like, the way it was shot was annoying. I was like, I got it, and it was edited badly, and you were editing in these bits that was trying to tell me visually what's going to happen later. But when it does happen, that bit at the start wasn't even needed. It just seemed a bit pretentious. It was just trying to. I was like, that's just trying to make me scared of that. But it wasn't done well enough, and the camera angle was bad. And in the end, I was bored into tears by just dissecting this film live in front of him, which to me is an interesting conversation. And I was like, going, and this, and I was like, the sound here was really bad. And I was like, it just didn't do this and didn't do that. And I was like, I kind of wish, in a weird way, that I didn't know any of this stuff, because I could have just enjoyed it.
You can't just turn it off. That's the only problem nowadays. You can't just turn off and just watch a crap film for. I say crap film, I'm talking about like your typical Hollywood blockbuster. Like if you went to go see Transformers, for example, most people enjoy it. You know, what's not to enjoy? It's robots going crazy and explosions at Michael Bay. So you know, why not? But then for someone like myself, I go on, I'm just like,
it's one of those things. It's just like, when you know the formula of something and you can see that formula being stuck to so well, you end up getting bored, because again, you can just guess. Oh, I reckon that's about to. Oh, it happened exactly when I thought it would, because that's just the way it is. And it's a shame, because then, again, when it comes to like when I said before, like when it comes to like the MCU stuff and that, when they were like, oh, it's so different, I was like, well, actually, it's just a palette swap, because if you actually put it against these films and go through this diagram, I was like, I could easily prove to you that it's the exact same film. But again, that's just because I'm really hyper aware of it.
Yeah.
And I wish I wasn't, because then I probably could really just enjoy it and stop being pretentious in a way. But then again, when it comes to me trying to show people films, again, what I think's amazing to someone might be quite weird and different. Like, I absolutely love, for example, like, grab it here. Like, I get like special editions when I really like it.
Yeah.
Like M, the film M. That's a great film. It's a really dark.
It's another German expressionism type film, isn't it? I think it's like late 20s or 30s. Is it?
Yeah, it's about a child killer. It's Fritz Lang. Also, I think, is it Fritz Lang as well? Like Metropolis. And like films like that, and I'm like, oh, you should watch this because this, and this, and this, and this happens, and all this other things. And like, I'm trying to think of other films that I've got a bit like that. Like Cabinet Dr. Caligari, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1978 version, Let the Right One In.
That was another one that was kind of on my list. Let the Right One In, Let Me In.
That's really good.
Like Let Me In's the US remake, which apparently is supposed to be good as well, but obviously not as good as the original. But
and I'm really into animation, because obviously I make it, and like you've got films that people have spoke about, but it's not often. Well, they're like, I don't know if you've ever seen Song of the Sea.
No, I've never watched. I know it's not, but I know I've never watched any. What's the word now? We've talked about him so much recently. What's it called? Studio Ghibli. There you go. I've never watched. I know that's not Ghibli, but I've never watched any Ghibli films.
Ghibli,
the best things ever.
Yeah, Ghibli is good. Ghibli is anime for people who don't want to admit they like anime.
Like, I'm a massive Dragon Ball Z fan, but that's the only one I watch.
Me too. I'm going to get the 4-star Dragon Ball as a tattoo.
What you mean? This right here.
Nice. I get you it, but it would require me going up there. I've got every Dragon Ball in a box, like in a disc. I really want it
in the crystal ball. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a fantastic film as well. Mary and Max.
Yeah.
Ugly film, but it's stop motion. That's fantastic. There's so much, like, again, with animation, for example, like, I know it's going to make me sound like a nerd. I am a nerd, that's fine. But like, there's so many stories that are in there. And animation, it's just beautiful storytelling because you can get away with things. And like, art style is important to me. I love art styles and this, that, and the other. And like, A Cat in Paris, that's a good film. Ernest and Celestine, which is a French-Israeli animation about a bear and a mouse, and that looks like watercolor. And then they try doing something like that with Loving Vincent. Have you seen Loving Vincent? The one where every frame's an oil painting.
I've seen it when I used to work at HMV, but I've never watched it. I've seen like obviously the style of it. Yeah.
The problem with Loving Vincent though is it does take you a while to acclimatize to it, because it is a weird animation style. There's so many different things that you could just. The Red Turtle, that's a Studio Ghibli film. That's really good. If you like WALL-E, where you don't have to, there's not any dialogue for ages. Because I think the first part of WALL-E is better than the second half. The Red Turtle, watch that. That's mainly silent, and that's an animation. That's beautiful. That tells you a story just visually.
Yeah.
I think stuff like that, which is just amazing. And then this is what I do when I try and tell people about it, because it just seems so distant and different. It's not always easy to get them on board. Do you know what I mean?
No, as I said, my specialty is horror and stuff. So I say this now, I haven't watched some of the most horror films ever made, but I'm massive in slasher films. So when I talk about slasher films, it's basically saying, but you can't really, you get too passionate about it, and it just, like I said, it puts you distant into it. So, but if you're trying to say, oh, this is a really good film, you should watch it, and just like, no, I'm okay, thanks. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you need to watch this
Yeah.
film. Like, again,
100%.
one of my top films from last year was Ready or Not. I thought that was one of the most incredible horror films in recent years. If you've ever seen it, like Samara
I haven't
Weaving,
seen it, no.
and it's just so good. But like nobody will see it. I mean, but it was very, 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 very good. And the directors of that are now going on to do Scream 5. So can't fucking wait. So because like Scream's one of my favorite films of all time. Do you have you said before your favorite poem is Sold Out? You'd say that's the one that you've written. Do you have a favorite poet? Do you say the Baron would probably be your favorite poet, or do you have a favorite?
John Cooper Clarke is my favorite poet.
John Cooper Clarke.
Dr. John Cooper Clarke is my favorite poet of all time. He's just brilliant. He's just so funny, so wry, so dry. And his poems are just incredible, just every single one of them. Evidently Chicken Town's my favourite one. I Want to Be Yours, which was also done by the Arctic Monkeys. So the song I Want to Be Yours is his poem they just made to music, but with a little bit in the middle. But I Want to Be Yours is fantastic.
So people who don't like poetry, Arctic Monkeys use poetry in there. So
exactly. Yeah. Songs are just poems to music.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah, like I said, it's just finding the way, like you said, poems and music, and that's kind of what you're doing now. You're doing it in a different style to comedy, and you're using your theatre background to put on a show. You would say, like I said, you're putting your gestures in there, and you're animating it, and I think that's what good performers should do. Like I said, rather than just stand there with a piece of paper, or like I said, just stand there. You're putting on this show, and you're performing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with reading it if that's how you feel comfortable. It's just not the way I feel comfortable doing it.
No, yeah, definitely. But so you said, what's your favourite poem?
That I've done, yeah.
No, of all time, like poem, like you've read this and it was just like, I wish I wrote it. Yeah, it was like, I wish I wrote this, or
possibly. It would be a John Cooper Clarke one. It would be possibly there's three of them: Evidently Chicken Town, Beasley Street, and Twat. Twat, yeah, it's really good. Those are my three favourite that he did, because those were the ones that I heard that made me realise I could do it.
Yeah.
And so they mean a lot to me. There's other poems that I heard when I was growing up and this, that, and the other that do mean a bit to me, but like in terms of now, those three were the ones that stuck with me to the point where I was like, I reckon I could do this. Poetry's actually a bit different to what I thought it was. And I reckon I can do this. And that's where I'm at now. Thanks to those poems and thanks to him, that's why I do what I do. In terms of poetry, anyway.
That's perfect. I want to thank you for, like I said, coming on and joining us here. It's one of those things you could probably talk for hours about films. It's probably going to be another podcast at some other point of just talking films rather than poetry and COVID. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I want to thank you, like I said, for finally messaging me when we were ready to do this and bearing with me during work schedules and Zoom problems. And like I said, I think you are incredible. And I said, you're amazing. And I've watched some of the stuff that you've put on, and you did a recent one. Like with Instagram, like you said, with the Blue Collar Pub, what's it called?
Oh, Blue Balloon Theatre, yeah. They wanted to talk to me about. I did that birthday week, and they asked me to do a show, and obviously we couldn't do it live because originally I was meant to do it in March, but the week we were meant to do it was lockdown.
Yeah.
They had never met me before, and I wasn't able to make the rehearsal, so they had no idea what I was gonna do. And I was like, I have like a show ready, so whenever I can perform it, I'll perform it fully. So then they messaged me a few weeks back and were like, could you film it? Like, it doesn't matter how much or how little, could you film a show? Or like whatever you were going to do. Even if it was just a piece. And I was like, well, actually, it doesn't work if it's just a piece. It needs to be like a set.
Yeah.
But I didn't have enough time. So I had to stay up late a few nights and just film it like within 3 days and then edit it together as quick as I could. And I was like, I need jokes in it. But they don't work because a lot of my jokes work with the audience. Like that first joke, the Hand of Hope, it works because there's an audience there. It doesn't work. I did do it in the show, but I had to figure out how to make it funnier. So that's why there's music there and it cuts when the thing comes in because that's meant to be the joke. Then like you see in a trailer and this and the other. And I was like, how do I make it funny? So I thought in the first minute and 4 seconds, I'll be sick into my hands.
I was about to say, you just go to the toilet, but I'll be all right. It's fine. Yeah, and like that, I love everything because again, for me as well, like you said with the Baron, you're my first probably poet that I've seen to do this kind of thing as well, and I think it's great. And like I said, when I saw it at Dirty Blondes, I absolutely loved it, and I would happily sing your praises. And like I said, recommend anybody who wants to have a laugh to go and watch. And when Dirty Blondes does reopen, it's small and shouty stuff. I'll recommend again. I'm quite close to Matt, and like I said, you'll be the first person if he ever asks who it would be. So
I'd be more than happy to go back. I just hope I could give them a show worthy of it. Really, to be honest.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I wanted to thank you. Do you want to tell everybody where they can follow you on Instagram, or do you even have Twitter and Facebook? So
yeah. So in a weird way, I'm not that great at being professional. On Instagram, it's at all lowercase AB freelance artist, and that's on Instagram. I put a lot of stuff up there. On Twitter, it's at and in capitals ABF freelance artist. So it's ABF freelance artist. So it's basically the same thing, but like ABF is it might be ABFA. Have a look. It's my face. You'll see that. And on Facebook, I'm just Anthony Briscoe, and I'm quite happy for people to follow me as just me, to be honest, because I've said this a few times. I know professionally I should have a page, I should have a poetry page, this, that, and the other, but I am me.
Yeah.
I'm still a person. Like, there's a lot of things now where artists, can you like the art if you like the person? And I'm like, well, I just make it all me then. So if you don't like me, you might not like my art. And you know what I mean? If you might like my art, but then find me boring or something. That's okay because I'm me. I'm an artist. I'm a person. So I'm all right with that. If I just keep all my foibles and work together, although I really shouldn't, but I do, because like they say now, if you want to get a job, they just check you out anyway. So what's the point of me going? They're going to find me. If I go, here's my professional page, I'm the admin, by the way, you'll find me.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm quite happy for people. If they like it, send me a message there. You know, it's fine. I'm all right with it. So it's Anthony Briscoe. Again, it's my face in black and white, but it's my face.
Yeah, that's perfect. Like I said, we'll definitely have to do it again sometime as well. Just talk about films, and
I'd be more than happy with that. Great.
Yeah, and like I said, I always do I know it's not really been much that's been out this year, but I always do a best films of the year awards kind of thing. So I know there's not going to be a lot to choose from, but I have to get your opinion on that as well. So you'd say Lighthouse and Parasite so far?
So far, those are the films this year that really, really blew me away. And I'm talking about this year. I've seen some films from the previous years only this year, but those two films have stuck with me. I'd say I like Lighthouse just a bit better than Parasite, but you're looking at saying like, I liked Lighthouse 98 out of 100, and I like Parasite 97 out of 100. It's that close.
Yeah. I got the Parasite Steelbook. It's bloody beautiful. I still haven't seen Lighthouse yet, though. So I haven't seen it. Check it. No. I need to check it out. It's a Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson in it. I didn't know it was a horror film, though, which is making me want to watch even more. It's in the horror section at HMV.
It is and it isn't.
Yeah. Kind of more like a psychological, like, mindfuck.
Sort of, I guess. I guess I'd put it that way. It's more like a massive allegory for, I would say, maybe possibly homosexuality, to be honest. I wouldn't say that's a horror thing, but it's like a massive allegory about sexual, sexuality and this, that, and the other. But the performances alone are so good. like William Dafoe's amazing anyway, and Robert Pattinson I've never really rated because I've only really ever knew him from Twilight and Remember Me, and didn't really bother
Harry
with any of that
Potter.
stuff. I never watched Harry. I don't like
Oh,
Harry
fair
Potter
enough.
either.
Fair enough.
But I don't really know him for anything else. And then I watched him in Lighthouse, and I've never. It's happened a few times. I think Daniel Radcliffe's a really good actor, but again, I didn't watch Harry Potter much. I didn't like it, so I've only ever known him because of that and this, that, and the other. And like he's grown on me. Like Daniel Radcliffe, I think is really good. Leonardo DiCaprio, grew up watching him in like Titanic, he was good in that, but like I seen him in like when I saw him in Django Unchained and stuff, I was like, he's fucking phenomenal. And Robert Pattinson, just that one film alone of Lighthouse changed my perception of him completely. He's so good. He's so good in it. It's like he doesn't do it because he can't, but he nearly matches Defoe. He nearly matches him, and to do that when you're up against Defoe, that's phenomenal.
I mean, coming from, like I said, Twilight, he's just changed his whole perspective. Like I said, he did Lighthouse and then Tenet, if you haven't seen Tenet yet as well.
I haven't seen Tenet yet.
No. And then, like I said, he's gone on to become Batman, which is filming in Liverpool right now.
I've seen the pictures. It looks amazingly funny.
Yeah, so, I mean, I saw the picture. I was like, Colin Farrell? I was like, what? Looks nothing like him. It's unreal. But I said, I'm looking forward to it. Again, I know you're not a massive DC fan, but, it's going to be completely dark, and I'm looking forward to it.
I like the Nolan films, but then again, it's Nolan, so it's always a comfortable pair of hands. Well,
Christopher Nolan is highly regarded on our greatest movie ever's list. So.
Yeah, I was saying, like, I like The Dark Knight. Batman Begins I thought was too dark, like I literally couldn't see anything. And what was the last one?
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises, I thought was okay, but a proper letdown, but it was always going to be, and I still can't get over my disappointment with it.
Dark Knight is like one of the greatest films ever made. Obviously, it made our list. So, but no, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, we'll definitely do it again sometime when all of our schedules free up and we can try and make it work again and no Zoom problems. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No worries.